ranking on the first page of Google. You should see the screen change, and now we're on the housekeeping slide. I do want to encourage everyone to post questions, and to make sure you know where that questions box is. On my screen, it's in the upper right hand, or it's actually at the top of my screen. You just click right on that Q&A button, and if you could type in what type of business you are marketing, just to get a sense for who's on the line and what kind of business you are looking to get ranked in Google. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Okay, there we go. Thanks, thanks Mary, Melanie. We've got fitness studio, yoga studio, group fitness studio, massage, Spanish language school, dance studio. All right, they're flowing in. Looks like everyone figured out how to use that questions box. Sports therapy. I could actually use Michael's services right now. I ran the Suffolk County Marathon last weekend and still feeling a little sore from that. Pilates, several Pilates and cycling companies as well. Okay, great. So moving on, I always recommend everyone turn off distractions. You just get the most out of these presentations if you're not also trying to scroll through your email or your Facebook feed. All right, here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to walk through some important Google updates that you need to understand if you want to get your business ranked high in Google. I'll talk about 3 what I call old school SEO tactics that you need to avoid. These are tactics that used to work not too long ago. Actually, when I got started, these were actually recommended by experts, but now they'll just get you into trouble. Then I'll talk about 2 tactics you can use to get ranked in as little as 30 days. SEO is generally thought of as more of a long-term strategy, and that is true. It does take time to get your website to rank high, but there are some things you can do to get ranked pretty quickly. Then we'll obviously walk through the 5 steps. And at the end, I do have a special offer for attendees to help you get started today. Now, Penelope gave an intro, so you do know I'm the founder of Main Street ROI. Again, my name is Phil Frost, and our business provides digital marketing services like SEO, as well as advertising and email marketing. And we also provide a lot of training, like this free training you're on today. And then we have some more in-depth courses that we provide to businesses if they want to do the marketing themselves. And you can go to mainstreetroi.com/training, and you can see a lot of our paid courses. And my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. And this is my favorite slide right here. I'm also the proud father of these 2 cute kids. We've got Violet on the left. She's going to be 5 years old in January 2nd. And that is my chubby son, Emmett, on the right. He's about 2.5 now. And my wife and I just got a scale in our house, and it turns out Emmett is 35 pounds and Violet is only 38 pounds. So he's actually going to be heavier than her pretty soon. And that's my beautiful wife, Erin, in the middle. And we live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. All right, so to understand how to get ranked in Google, I think it's really important to know some of the history of Google, so you know kind of how Google is set up, how it works, and then we'll get into some of the important updates on the next slide. So way back in the day, some of the older folks will remember this. There were the Alta Vista days. This is before Google. Search engine optimization, or SEO, was super easy. That's because search engines were not very sophisticated. All they did was look at the web pages online, and they would look for the words on the web pages. And let's say Katie said she has a Pilates studio. So if you were trying to rank high for Pilates studio, then you would just want to put that word or that phrase on your page more times than anyone else has on their pages, and you would likely rank high back in the Alta Vista days. Now, SEO is easy, but unfortunately, a lot of spammers out there caught on to that. And if you remember doing searches back then, you would actually find totally irrelevant search results for something like Pilates Studio. You might even find porn sites would be ranking on the very first page. So that was a big problem. So search engines were not sophisticated. They actually didn't do a good job of finding the information that you needed until Google entered the market. So they came right around 1998, and they had a pretty ingenious algorithm that not only looked at the words on your website, but they also looked at how many other websites were linking to your website. So again, I'll pick on Katie here. She's got a Pilates Studio website, and she's trying to rank for Pilates Studio. Not only is Google going to look to see, hey, does she have a relevant page for that phrase, but how many other websites are linking to Katie's website? And you can think of links from other websites like a vote in your favor, and it's kind of like a popularity contest. So if you have a lot of links from other websites, that's a signal that you are basically a website that can be trusted, and Google should show you high in those search results. Now that's a nice little twist to how the search engine worked, and because of that, Google's search results were just way better than anything else, any other search engines out there. So Google naturally became #1, and they really haven't looked back since. They are still the #1 search engine, and they own the majority of the search market. Now, the last thing I want you to remember here is that Google's revenue, their whole business depends on search ad revenue. So if you go to Google and do a search, you will see advertisers, typically the first 3 or 4 results. Those will be ads, and they label them with the little ad icon. And those are businesses paying to be on the first page of Google. And when people click on that, those businesses pay Google. And Google actually makes the majority of the revenue from people clicking on those search ads. And when you think about it, Google's business depends on people trusting Google and finding what they're looking for. So that's why they hire some of the smartest people out there to work on their team and to fight spam in their search results. If they ever get spam showing up on the first page, that's basically a threat to their entire business, because those users that get irrelevant results on the first page are probably going to not use Google. They'll go use Bing or some other search engine. So that's why Google works really hard to fight spam, because again, it's a threat to their entire business. And that leads us to why they release a lot of updates and why they're constantly updating their algorithm. So here's some of the highlights over the years. The first one that, if you've studied SEO, you would come across what was called the Panda update. And these updates, when they first came out, were huge news in the SEO community. And now Google's constantly making tweaks to all of these updates to continually improve. But the main takeaway with the Panda update is that Google, again, does not want to show websites in their search results that give a bad user experience, because that, again, is a threat to their entire business. So a bad user experience would be a website that's not very easy to use. It doesn't have good navigation. And also, if it's poorly written, then that would be a poor experience for that user. So you want to make sure you have high quality content, so really good information that's well written, grammatically correct, and it has an intuitive design. The next important update here was the Penguin update. Now, if you remember on the previous slide, I mentioned Google's algorithm depends on looking at how many other websites are linking to your website. Well, once you know that, a lot of businesses figured that out a while ago, and they kind of took it to the extreme. And in some businesses back in the day, built a huge network of blogs. So they just built all these websites that were basically blogs where they published articles and they linked to their own websites. So if you take this to the extreme, you could think about, creating 1,000 websites, 1,000 blogs, and publishing some articles on those blogs and linking to your main website, and you would then have 1,000 links to your website. And in theory, that should work, and it actually did work in the early days of Google. But Google became smarter, more sophisticated, and they released what was called the Penguin Update, and that basically looked for websites that were creating their own links, creating really poor quality links to their site, basically gaming the system. So these were not legitimate websites linking to their website. They were these blog networks. So that would be definitely an old school tactic that you want to avoid. Next big update is Google Plus, and that's Google's response to Facebook. So Facebook is the biggest social network site out there, and it obviously draws a lot of traffic. Facebook's making a lot of money with advertising, which is basically stealing, from Google's perspective, is stealing money from them. So they want a piece of that pie, so they created Google Plus. The main takeaway, though, is, from my perspective, that they're starting to collect more and more social signals, and I do see that becoming more important in the future. Excuse me. The last update I want to highlight is the Hummingbird update, and this was basically a complete overhaul of their algorithm. If you think about a car, the analogy here would be getting a new engine for your car. So they basically did that for their algorithm. They replaced the engine, they rewrote all of that algorithm code, and they did that because they saw the direction that we were moving in, where people are starting to use their mobile phone. They're starting to talk into their mobile phone. Now I actually have an Alexa at home where I can just literally ask it questions, and it will do a search and then provide answers. So Google saw that coming, and they had to rewrite their algorithm to understand context and synonyms, which actually affects how we approach SEO now. All right, so now that you understand a little bit of the background where Google has been and some of those important updates, these are some old school tactics that you want to avoid. These will actually get you into trouble. And this one's related to that Panda update. And you want to avoid what's called over-optimizing your web pages. And a term that you will come across if you research SEO is something called keyword density. I will use that same example with a Pilates studio. When you start thinking about keyword density, it's how many times does that keyword, let's say Pilates studio, show up on the page versus all the other words that are on that page. I basically recommend that you don't worry about keyword density, because when you start worrying about keyword density, that means that you are not writing naturally on your website. You're trying to write for Google, and that will generally get you into trouble. So rather than thinking about keyword density and trying to write for Google, you want to write naturally. You want to avoid what's called keyword stuffing. That's where you unnaturally try to slip in some of your target keywords into the copy on your pages. I'm sure you've seen this before. It makes the web page read pretty awkwardly. And Google's algorithm can now detect that if it's a really awkward sentence. And again, that's going to create a poor user experience. Google doesn't want that to rank high on the first page. Ultimately, when you're creating your pages, you want to provide the most valuable information and in a good user-friendly format. That is what Google ultimately wants to show their users because that's what's going to make them come back and use Google and search and click on ads. All right, the second old school tactic is related to links. And I hinted at this earlier. This is related to the Penguin update. First of all, you don't want to go out and buy links. If Google determines that you purchased a link, then Google is just going to discount that link in their algorithm. So if you went out and bought 100 links because you thought, hey, that's going to make me rank higher, if Google determined that you did purchase those 100 links, those would not be counted in the algorithm, and they would not help you from an SEO perspective. You also want to avoid getting links from irrelevant websites. So if you have, let me pick on someone else here, Troy Performance Sports Training website. Excuse me. So if you have a performance sports training website, probably doesn't make sense to get a link from a car dealership website, even though Troy might have a friend who knows a friend who owns a car dealership website, and now you know, hey, links to your website can improve your SEO. Intuitively, you might think, hey, it'd be a good idea to go get a link from your friend there. But you want to avoid that, because if you have a lot of links from irrelevant websites, Google sees that as unnatural. It's not very natural for a car dealership website to link to a sports training facility. So Google would see that as a red flag that you're probably doing something that's against their terms, and that could just get you into trouble. And you could actually lose rankings rather than gain them. This next example, it has to do with anchor text. And I gave an example as if you had a day spa business. So anchor text is the phrase or the word that is hyperlinked. So in my example here, the phrase is day spa. And naturally online, when we see blue font and it's underlined, we naturally think, hey, that's a link. So that's the real term for that is anchor text. And that's something that Google will read. And if that link goes to your website, Google will look at the anchor text to determine what that page is relevant for. So in this case, if that link went to your website, your homepage, Google would naturally think that your page is relevant for that phrase day spa, which would increase the chances that you would rank high for that phrase when someone was searching for a day spa. Now again, take this to the extreme, and if you went out and got 100 or 1,000 links that all had the exact same anchor text, which is what businesses actually did not too long ago, then that's going to be a red flag for Google that you're probably doing something a little shady, and Google will see that, and you'll probably get penalized from this Penguin update. So the key takeaway here is you don't want to get a lot of links with the exact same anchor text, that would never happen in real life because other websites are just going to naturally link to you using different phrasing and different text. So when it comes to getting links, you're probably wondering, how should I actually get them? Well, you want to focus more on creating really good content on your site, and then sharing that content with other websites that would then reference it. And when they reference it, they will link back to your website. We'll talk more about that later. And the third and final old school SEO tactic I want to highlight is what I call unnecessary SEO web pages. This is related to the Hummingbird update. So I mentioned Google now knows context and synonyms. So the old school tactic would be to create a web page for every single different variation of a keyword. That was actually a technique that would work very well, because then you would have a page that was specifically relevant for that phrase. But that's really unnecessary now because Google understands synonyms. So instead, you want to create one page on your site for what I'm calling keyword themes, or just very similar keywords. I'll show you an example. So again, for a day spa, these two keywords here, day spa in NYC and NYC day spa, those are technically different keywords, but they're obviously very similar, and the person searching each of those keywords is looking for the exact same thing. And when that is the case, you only need one page on your website. You don't want to try to create two different pages and try to get two different pages to rank for each of those keywords. That would be, first, a waste of your time, and second, it could actually get you into trouble. And as an example, we started working with a client, I think this was early this year or late last year. Right when we started working with them, we got this message from Google. Google detected some spam problems on the site. They detected thin content that provides little or no added value. So what our client had done before we started working together was that they created basically duplicated pages on their site, trying to rank for keywords in different locations. So they weren't in New York, but let's say they were. The example would be day spa, Brooklyn day spa, for example, have a page for Brooklyn day spa, have a page for Bronx day spa, a page for Flatiron day spa, which is an area in New York City. You get the point. They basically created all these different location-specific pages, and what the problem was, it was all very similar pages, so they're basically duplicated pages. And when Google determines that, what they see is that you have all of these pages that are providing little or no added value to the user. And from Google's perspective, their fear is you're going to create a bad user experience, and Google's going to lose a user and lose revenue. So when they see that, they will send this alert, and you will lose rankings until you fix that problem, which basically means removing all of that duplicate content. All right, before we get to the 5 steps, I do want to give 3 very safe SEO predictions. The first one is that Google will obviously continue to fight SEO spam. Again, that's a threat to their business model. So they're always going to be looking for keyword stuffing. They're always going to be looking for unnatural inbound links. So those are links from other websites to your website. And they will constantly be looking for unnecessary pages on your website for very similar keywords. Next, this should not be a shocker to anyone on the line. Mobile is becoming more and more important. More people now are actually searching on mobile devices than desktop computers. And for younger folks, that's probably no surprise. I'll actually lump myself. I'm not very old, but I'm now in the digital world. I'm an old guy, because I remember the days where you didn't even have to worry about mobile devices, didn't even have to worry about a mobile website, because literally you could not get to a website on your mobile device. Those days are obviously long gone. And in some industries, more of your prospective customers are actually going to be going to your website on mobile rather than a old school desktop computer. And along those lines, you may have heard of Google's recent change. They're moving to what's called a mobile first index. So again, back when I started in 2006, Google's algorithm would always just look at the desktop version of your website, and they would make all of their decisions about how well you're going to rank based on the desktop version. Well, very soon, they've actually just started rolling this out. It's called the Mobile First Index. And as the name implies, they are going to start looking at the mobile version of your website first to make decisions about how high your website should rank in the search results. So it's all flipping here. Literally, as we speak here, as I speak, Google is rolling out this update. So it's only happening for a very small percentage of searches right now. But over the next, let's say 6 months, maybe it'll take a year, it'll be fully rolled out. And at that point, if you don't have a mobile optimized website or a mobile responsive website, you are definitely at a huge disadvantage to competitors who have more modern mobile optimized sites. The other thing I put in there is local signals. That's very related to mobile. More and more people are searching on their mobile phones, and Google incorporates the actual geographic location of that person searching, and then they use that to rank businesses that are nearby that person's location. And lastly, I hinted at this, social signals, I believe will become more important. Google must be looking into this. They haven't gone on the record and said they are, but it is certainly a huge source for information to be able to see different websites and businesses that are being referenced via social media. I have to imagine that's going to get rolled into their algorithms soon. So ultimately here, SEO is about partnering with Google. Big misconception out there with SEO is that SEO is about tricking Google and getting your business to rank high, but hopefully one of the key takeaways today that you'll get out of this presentation is that Google is really about partnering. You want to put yourself in Google's shoes. They're obviously trying to make the most money possible, and to do that, they need people to keep coming back to Google and make more and do more searches and click on ads. So to do that, they need businesses like ours to have really nicely designed websites, nice layouts, good user experiences, and obviously really good high quality content. And that's what Google wants. And by doing that, again, you're partnering with them to give them what they want so that you will rank higher. Okay, with that background out of the way, we will dive into the 5 steps. And I call these 5 steps the 5 R's, and hopefully that will make it easy to remember. First R is research. And when we talk about research with SEO, we're talking about keyword research. We want to find out exactly what your prospective customers are searching in Google. And the tool I recommend is Google's Keyword Planner tool, with the caveat that in order to access this tool, you need to create a Google AdWords account. Google recently changed this, so you have to kind of jump through the hoops. You have to create an AdWords account. I think they force you to add your credit card in there, but don't worry, you don't have to spend any money. You don't actually have to advertise. Just don't ever set up any ads, and then you won't spend any money. But once you have that account, then you can access this tool within Google AdWords. And it's basically it's a keyword research tool where it's very similar to a thesaurus. You type in what you think people are searching, and then Google will give you additional phrases that they know people are searching for that are related to what you put in their tool. And they'll also tell you how many times each month that particular keyword is searched. And you can change the location. You can do it just for New York City. You could do it for all of the US or any other country. So obviously you want to focus on keywords that have what's called search volume. That means that people are actually searching that keyword. Excuse me. And then most importantly, or definitely more importantly, you want to focus on this concept of buying intent. And I say more importantly because most likely you're going to think of a lot of the keywords and type those into the keyword planner tool, and then you'll see some other related keywords. And don't get too discouraged if the search volumes are very low, because the keyword planner tool is not perfect. It's not literally telling you exactly how many times it's searched. It kind of approximates and rounds up and down. So even when it says 0, a lot of times that's not true. So don't get too caught up in the exact numbers of searches. Rather than that, focus on this concept of buying intent. And that is the idea of putting yourself in the prospect's shoes and thinking about exactly what that person is looking for when they're typing that keyword into Google. An example I'll give here is day spa in NYC versus best facial for acne. So hopefully it's clear based on these two keywords which one has more what I'm calling buying intent. So hopefully it's clear that the first one, day spa in NYC, has more buying intent. It's much more likely that someone searching that phrase is actually going to schedule an appointment with a day spa versus someone going to Google and typing best facial for acne. Sure, it's possible that that person would want a spa. Excuse me. But it's also very likely that that person is just doing research, and that's the other type of intent. There's really two types of keywords. There's buying intent keywords and research intent keywords. And a keyword like best facial for acne is more of a research intent keyword, and it's less likely that the person searching that keyword is actually going to turn into a customer for a day spa. And the last question you want to answer here, when you're doing the keyword research, you want to focus on the buying intent keywords. You also want to honestly answer the question, do you deserve to be number one? So do you actually offer that product or service or that information on your website? And if you answer no, then that's going to be an uphill battle. It's possible you answer no, and it's because you do offer that product or service, but it's not listed on your site, in which case that's an opportunity to actually create that particular page, and then you would have a chance to rank for that keyword. All right, so that's the first step. You want to do your keyword research, find all of the buying intent keywords for your business. And next, we want to move on to relevance. And more specifically, we're talking about website relevance. And that's really marketing 101. You want to match the message on your web page to what the market is searching. And I mentioned this earlier. So you're going to find a lot of similar keywords, and you want to group those together and then pick just one page on your site that you are going to make relevant for that group of similar keywords. And then you're probably wondering, what does it mean to make your website relevant? Or you might have heard of optimizing a web page, and what does it mean to optimize? Well, specifically, it means making edits to the page so that when Google reads your page, they determine that you're relevant for the keyword that you're trying to rank for. And there's 3 elements that are most important. There are tons of elements, but the 3 most important ones are the page title. And in HTML, I put in the parentheses there. So if you're familiar with HTML or you want to shoot this over to your developer, the title in HTML is that less than sign, title greater than sign, and then you actually put the title. So the page title is very similar to, let's say, chapters in a book. So when you open a book, you go to the table of contents, and let's say it's a textbook and you're trying to find some very specific information, you can look at the chapters to figure out where you are most likely to find the answer to your question. And the table of contents is very similar to how Google is using the page titles of your site. So when somebody is searching in Google, they're basically asking a question. Google can look at the page titles to quickly determine which pages are likely to have the answer to that person's question. So with that analogy in mind, you obviously want to have unique titles. It would be very frustrating if you opened up a textbook and all of the chapter titles were exactly the same. You wouldn't be able to find what you're looking for. Same thing is true with Google. If all of your titles on all of your pages are exactly the same, that makes it very hard for Google to know which page is going to answer that person's question. And you also want to incorporate your target keyword in the title of your page. So by doing that, you're explicitly telling Google, this page on my website is 100% relevant for this particular keyword. So when someone's searching this keyword, I want this page to rank high. And Google will see, hey, someone's searching for that keyword, and you have that page that looks very relevant. The other area where you can tell Google you're relevant is headers. Those are your H1, H2, H3. The way to think about headers is, if you remember writing papers in school, you may have broken up the paper with different headers, and that can make it easier to read, and it's great for usability, especially when you're going to a website and it's a longer page. The headers break up the content and break it up into logical sections. And again, Google uses that kind of like a shortcut to determine if your page is relevant. So if they see the keyword is in the headers of your page, then that is going to make it more relevant. And there's a good chance that that page is going to answer the question that the person is searching for. And lastly would be the actual body copy. And again, I mentioned you want to write for the user, so the prospective customer. You do not want to fall into the trap of writing your copy for Google. So if you do everything right with SEO, I actually recommend you focus the body copy more on sales. So you want to use sales copy best practices rather than thinking about SEO best practices. So just write really good copy as far as, hitting your key selling points, what makes you different, why you versus your competition. Make sure you have all that information so that when someone gets to your site, then you have a good chance of actually converting that visitor into a customer. And here's what I call the golden rule of relevance. I recommend you create a web page that you yourself would actually want to find if you were the one searching for that keyword. So again, it all comes back to just putting yourself in your prospective customer's shoes. If you're going to be the one searching, what would you actually want to find? And a great tip here, another good takeaway, is to literally do the search, take a look at what is already ranking high, And that will give you a good feel for what Google wants to see. And it will also highlight for you any opportunities to create a better page. So what are the pages that are already ranking? What are they missing that you could add to your page to make it an even better page for those searchers? All right, the third step, or the third R, is reputation. So at this point, you have a page on your site that's highly relevant for a given search. And that's great, but there's likely going to be millions of other web pages out there that Google will find that are relevant. And as far as ranking those pages, Google's going to look at what's called your reputation. And another word for reputation is what's called domain authority. So again, if you've done research here with SEO, you'll come across this term called domain authority. It's basically a measure of your online reputation, the online reputation of your website. And the number one factor here is links, and you can get a solid reputation online by association. So if you can associate yourself with other authoritative websites, other websites that have really good reputations, then that's going to rub off on your site, and Google over time will see you as see your website as having a strong reputation. And the websites that have stronger reputations are going to be ranked higher in the search results. And to reiterate what I mentioned earlier, you want to focus more on attracting links from other websites by having really good information on your site that other websites would want to reference, versus buying or creating links yourself, which again, that's an old school tactic that would likely get you into trouble. All right, so I went through the first 3 steps. I'm going to get back to the other steps in a minute, but I want to go through a couple tactics to get ranked in 30 days or less, because now that you understand the first 3 steps, these are going to make a lot more sense. So this tactic here is called piggyback SEO. And what you're going to do is piggyback on other websites that already have a high authority or a high domain authority or a good reputation. And what you're going to do is publish content with your target keyword in the title of that page. Because again, putting the keyword that you want to rank for in the title is going to tell Google that you are very relevant. And if the website already has a strong reputation, then that page should naturally rank high. And here's an example. So this search here is, sorry, it's getting blocked. How to create a Google AdWords campaign. And you can see ranking number 3 here is an article that I wrote and published on another website called kissmetrics.com. And you can see that the title is how to create a profitable Google AdWords campaign, which basically matches almost exactly what this search was. So Google can see that that's a very relevant page, and it's on a website, kissmetrics.com, that has a strong domain authority or a very good reputation. So that's why it's ranking number 3 at the time when I took the screenshot. And then it also works for other relevant keywords. So here's a different keyword, Google AdWords campaign. And again, Google AdWords campaign is in the title of this page, which is how to create a profitable Google AdWords campaign. It's the same exact article, but it's a different keyword here. But that keyword is still in the title. It's obviously in the article, because we're talking about in the article Google AdWords campaigns. And it's the same domain here, Kissmetrics, which has a strong domain authority, and that's why it's ranking on the first page. Now, a frequently asked question I get when I talk about piggyback SEO is, how does that help you? Well, by getting a page to rank high on another website, you then drive traffic to that page, and then in that article, you then want to have a link to your website. So in that article, if you want to take a look at it, you'll actually find pretty early on in that article, I link to a Google AdWords checklist that we offer. So then people will do this search, they'll go read that article, and then while they're reading the article, they'll click a link, go over to mainstreetroi.com, and then a lot of them will then sign up to get our free Google AdWords checklist, and now they're in our system, and we can use email marketing to follow up. But you could do that process, or you could also rely on the the bio of the article. So whenever you write an article, you'll typically get a bio where it says who wrote the article, and then it has a little description. And then in that, you would then obviously link back to your website to get traffic. Tactic number 2 is what's called local SEO. And when we talk about local SEO, we're talking about Google My Business. And this is when you do a search for, see Michael has a sports therapy business. So someone searches sports therapy near me, or sports therapy in Flatiron, which is where I am in my office. That's likely going to show a map on the first page of Google, and then all of the nearby sports therapy facilities. So the reason for that is Google started to notice that 30% of mobile searches are local, 76% of mobile nearby searches actually visit a store, and then 28% of those people that searched a nearby keyword actually made a purchase. So the stats over time became pretty clear to Google that people wanted to find local businesses. They're searching for that. They're actually putting business nearby, those types of keywords. Google then started to show the map on the first page, and they started to show the businesses on the map with those teardrop icons. So that's local SEO. It's actually getting your Google My Business page to rank on the first page. So it's a little bit different because we're not talking about your website. Excuse me. What you want to do, same 3 steps though. You want to do your keyword research. Then you want to make your Google My Business profile relevant by choosing the right categories. And then to build up your Google My Business reputation, you need online reviews. Everyone knows what those are. And you need what's called citations, which is just a mention of your name, address, and phone number on another website. Classic example is a business directory. So business directories always list the business name, address, and phone number. So if you're listed in a lot of online directories, that's going to give you a lot of citations. And if all of that information is consistent and accurate across all of the directories, that will naturally boost your local SEO rankings. Here's actually a success story just to prove that it can happen very quickly. This one's from Barney. And you can see he said about a month ago, he started going through the local SEO steps, and he very quickly saw his Google rankings moving up, and he actually got a customer from his Google Plus local profile, which is what Google My Business was formerly known as Google Plus. All right, so a quick recap. We talked about the 3 R's, talked about 2 tactics to get ranked in 30 days or less. The next R is my favorite. It's revenue, because at the end of the day, the #1 goal here is to actually generate customers and revenue, not just to get ranked in Google. So when you follow those 3 steps, you then want to make sure you have a website that's going to convert those visitors into customers. And there are 3 key factors. First of all, you want to have compelling website copy. Again, you want to write that copy using sales copy best practices. You want to make sure you have social proof, so incorporate reviews, testimonials, and a strong call to action or CTA. You want to have what's called a lead magnet. So this is important because the vast majority of folks that go to your website are not going to pull the trigger and actually sign up. They're not going to schedule an appointment right away. So just giving you some ballpark numbers here as far as conversion rates. With an e-commerce website, 2% is actually a pretty strong conversion rate. To get 5% of people calling you or scheduling an appointment, that would be pretty strong. So even with those numbers, you realize that 95% of your traffic is not actually converting, not becoming a customer right away. And that's why you need to have what are called lead magnets. And this is some kind of free report, some kind of coupon offer that you can put on your site in exchange for email addresses. And then once you get those email addresses, you can follow up with email and nurture those leads and get them to convert in the future. So then rather than getting only 2% or 5% of your traffic to convert, you really widen that funnel and you're getting a much larger percentage of your traffic to convert. And the third point is that you're ranking for keywords that your prospective customers are actually searching. And that is why I emphasize the importance of buying intent versus research intent. If you get that wrong in step one and you do your keyword research and you're trying to rank for the wrong keywords, then ultimately it doesn't matter if you're ranking high, you're getting in front of the wrong people. And lastly, I want to emphasize the importance of tracking your return on investment. So the tool I recommend is Google Analytics. It's a free tool. You get that installed on your site. And as soon as you do, you'll start to see how much of your traffic is coming from Google or Bing or any other search engine. And if you set up goals properly, you will also see how much of that traffic from SEO is converting into leads and sales. And the fifth step here is responsibility. This comes down to identifying who is actually responsible for your SEO. Is that someone on your team, or are you hiring a consultant or an agency? I want to emphasize that SEO is not a set it and forget it strategy, unfortunately. So you can set up you can optimize your website, and that's what we call the SEO tune-up. That gets your website optimized so that Google knows that you're relevant for your target keywords. But then on an ongoing basis, you want to be building up your reputation, which is primarily focused on getting citations and links from other websites. That's what's going to start moving you higher and higher in the rankings. And then I always recommend you only delegate after you understand the basics of SEO. And that was really my goal here today, to give you the foundation. So now you have a good understanding of how SEO works, what are the SEO best practices. So then you can either hire someone on your team to do it in-house or find a consultant or an agency to do it for you. And these are not my kids here. I just found this picture. I thought it was a great picture for this slide, how there's a slight change in mindset as far as Google updates. A lot of businesses fear Google updates. I've actually heard businesses say it's not worth investing in SEO because Google changes so frequently. And that's completely the wrong mindset, because if you do SEO correctly, Google updates are actually opportunities for you to move higher in the rankings. Because again, Google's trying to get rid of the websites that don't belong on the first page. So those are the websites that are using tactics that are not best practices. And if you are following best practices, what we just went through today, when those websites lose their rankings, that opens up spots for you to move up higher in the rankings. All right, before we get to Q&A, promised a special offer, and it's 3 of our step-by-step 90-minute training courses. And the first one is the complete SEO tune-up, which you can buy separately on our site for $97. Second one is the local SEO formula. That's how to get your website to rank high in those local search results, or sorry, get your Google My Business profile to rank high. And again, that's sold separately for $97. Then introduction to SEO analytics, so you can monitor your SEO performance over time. You can see that's a total value of $291. But for attending today, you can get everything for just $97. So it's basically buy one, get 2 free. And you can go to mainstreetroi.com/SEO bundle to claim that special offer. And that is going to be on the final slide, don't worry. But if you're not interested in training, you're not looking to do this yourself, I definitely understand that. And I'll offer a free SEO consultation. And to get that, you can just type right into that questions box, yes, I'd like a consultation, and we will follow up. And with that, let me take a look at the questions. We've got just 3 minutes. All right, looks like Carolina asked, what do you mean by links from other websites? So when I say links, that's when someone puts a hyperlink on their website and they're referencing a page on your site. So I know there was somebody on the line with a Pilates studio. So let's say I wrote an article on my site on mainstreetroi.com, and I wrote an article about excuse me, how to get your Pilates studio to rank high. And then in that article, I linked out to an example Pilates studio. I would then, in the article, I might say, click here to see an example of XYZ Pilates studio, to see that they're doing everything correctly. So that's a link to another website. I see you asked that twice, so I apologize for getting to that late. There was a mind-body specific question. Penelope, I don't know if you want to address that, or we can always follow up.
I can. So Mary asked, how does my MindBody custom app impact my Google ranking? And that is an excellent question, Mary. So SEO does an excellent job of helping your students, customers, clients, whatever you call them, to find you through Google searches. But it doesn't stop there. So you also want to be able to allow your clients to easily book and purchase your services, classes, or memberships. So using something like MindBody helps to make this happen for them. And having a custom branded app adds a little bit of depth, another layer to that convenience for your clients. I hope that answers your question. And if not, feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to walk through that with you.
Okay, perfect. And then Mary asked a very important question. Is it important to claim your Google business listing? Absolutely. I apologize for not specifying that earlier. So when you set up a Google My Business profile, or maybe you already have one set up, somebody created it for you, the next step would be to verify ownership, and you definitely want to go through that step. That then basically puts it on lockdown so that you're the only one that can make edits to it, and that's also a signal that Google's looking at. Intuitively, it makes sense, so that if they have a chance of ranking a business high that's verified and they know it actually exists and owners are responsive, they're likely to rank that higher than a business that's not verified. And then Carolina, to follow up on links, you said, so how do you get other sites to feature you on theirs? There's lots of ways as far as getting links. The best way to do it is to first and foremost have something on your website that's, quote, link worthy. So if you have a Pilates studio, just stick with that example, you might have a video about a routine. I'll just do something specific for myself. Since I'm a runner, it might be, 5 Pilates exercises to improve your next marathon time. So it'd be something specific, tailored to a target audience that you want to reach. So you're looking to get more runners. That would be some good content. I know I would be interested in watching that video, or maybe that's just an article. Now you've got that really good piece of content on your site. Then you would want to take that to the next level and promote that via social media. Make sure you get that in front of as many people as possible. And then you can actually look for other relevant businesses that might want to reference that. For example, if you're doing Pilates exercises for runners, I would certainly do research on running specific blogs, and then reach out to those those website owners to see if they want to reference that in a blog that maybe already exists, or maybe they want to post a new one that references that, or maybe